to make things delicious. And I'm like, oh, like the batter it's this, but we can throw this. We can throw. Let's chop up some. Let's chop some stuff in there. Yeah. Let's do some stuff. And it was just funny to hear like that story through somebody else's lens, you know. And there were so many of those things. And I can remember being at parties when I was like, you know, the morning after a party, and be like, "Are you guys hungry? Like, it's like I'll make some stuff." You know, like having sleepovers and things like that. And it was just something I always did, but more importantly, it was something that, like, it was like a skill set that I developed out of a need, but also out of a passion, out of a comfort that reminded me of those Sunday suppers, even after they faded away, after my grandparents moved and got too old to do it. Like, it reminded me of that time and that feeling, you know, that I had, and the power of that communal dinner table of like, just, you know, if you make a meal and you're able to share it with people, like, it's sustenance, it's comfortable, it's just this warm feeling inside, whether you're cooking and serving people and making them happy because it's delicious, or because they need it, or because you want to share a conversation, or it's the reason that it's the glue that holds people together. And it was something that, again, as life got harder, it wasn't what I intended to do for a career path, but then I got, you know, when I was 13 or 14, so many of us I think have this story, like my sister had a friend whose brother was a chef, and the sister also worked at this, you know, I don't know if she was a cook or a wait or a bartender, I can't remember, but at Gus's Red Tavern in Burrville, and the, you know, the brother must have called her. She's like, you know, the dishwasher or something. The dishwasher didn't show up, or quit, or something. A fire. I can't remember what it was. Do you know any? You know, can you find somebody to wash dishes? You know, and she asked my sister. My sister asked me, you know, do you want to make some money? You want to go wash dishes? And we didn't. You know, there wasn't money. You know, a lot of money for us going up.
And you were like, my own money? Fuck
and I was like, absolutely, yeah. So I went in, washed dishes, you know, like for the night, and that was it. You know, that was like my first voyage on a pirate ship.
Yeah.
And
you're just looking over at the pirates, and you're like, these motherfuckers are hard.
I was like, this is fucking crazy. You know, swearing, screaming, like everything you, like a page out of Kitchen Confidential, you know, like where you're just like, this is scaring the shit out of me, and I love it. Yeah. Like, you know, like, this is crazy. It's like I'm in an action movie, like, and it was just, and I'm gonna get paid for it, and it was hard, and it stunk, and it was like gross, but you just like, you're like, do I hate it? Do I like it? Do I hate it? Do I like it? I'm gonna get paid. Like, you're gonna, I get to eat something. You're gonna make me something to eat, or I can taste things. I can, like, there was like the sense of freedom that came with like getting a job, and then like also just being out of the house and being on my own, and mom would drop me off, or my sister would drop me off and pick me up, and that was the first, you know, bite into the like professional world. And I never thought I would do it, you know. I was like, I was really thinking like math, science, service. Like, you know, I come from a military family, and so many of them, like my dad, my brother, my grandparents, my grandfathers, all served. It was my uncles, a bunch of my uncles, not all of them, and it was something that I thought about, right? And I was applying. I was thinking of going to West Point. I had this like career arc and path that I was thinking maybe I'll do FBI or CIA, or, you know, like, I don't know, like we're going to politics. Like, it was just like a totally different trajectory. Yeah. And that changed like very late in my senior year in high school, and I just, fuck it. Like, and I, for so many reasons, it was more complicated than that, but I decided, you know, to go to my fallback and go into cooking. And I went to Johnson Wales, and, you know, the rest is sort of history.
We're going to get into that history, but before that, what music were you listening to in the early 90s?
Oh, man.
Because I know that music was getting really strong at that point.
Oh, yeah. I was definitely... So I have a unique background being the youngest of 5 kids, so I had a really crazy musical upbringing. Can I stop for 1 second?
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it. It's all good. It's all good though.
It's why I live. That's why we. There's no more. This is no longer a 3-family house. It's like I can't. Like,
roommates are fucking horrible. I'm sorry. Sorry for all you roommates out there that get along, but for the most part, it turns shitty. So we're in your life. We're in Rhode Island. You're about 13, 14. Listen to music. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Music has always been a huge part of my life. When I was a kid, we had, we had an 8-track player.
Yeah.
We had a record player. We had cassettes.
What kind of records?
That was like right at the tail end of like where it didn't get used a lot. Like as I can remember, that was and the 8 tracks. When I was real little, I remember the 8-track cassettes, and then right as where my memory really starts to kick in is when cassettes became a big thing. But when I was a kid, man, like Elvis, I was so into like Elvis, and my first cassette 8-track was actually a country guy named Boxcar Willie, and I remember that.
Boxcar Willie,
yeah, man. And my parents listened to a really diverse like kind of group of music, and I remember a lot of the 70s stuff they were still playing, like everything from Kenny Rogers to Stevie Wonder, and everything in between, Bee Gees, and the Beatles. My brother, who was the oldest and I'm the youngest, as I was a kid, was like really into like 80s, the Cars, Devo, Journey. My sister, who had a huge impact, like not the next one but the next one, Cher, and she listened to a lot. She was super into 60s and 70s rock.
Yeah.
Zeppelin, Bad Company, Aerosmith, and I really got a lot of that from her. But Mom, would always, Sundays were, we'd have breakfast, we'd go to church, come back, and then it was Mom would put on Casey Kasem Top 40, and everybody would do chores and like clean the house and do stuff around the house. So the top 40s on Sundays were like a huge impact on me, like just like Sunday suppers. And pop music was just so many different artists and different styles. But then as I got a little older and became a teenager, I was really into hip hop, like early hip hop, a lot, and like Tribe, and then around, I would say 92, I was still listening to like a lot of hip hop and pop, but I just got really into into rock and grunge, and that just became like everything to me in my world, and the angst, and I was a teenager, I was dealing with all these emotions, my parents were getting divorced, I was going to high school and dealing with that
exactly
whole
what
like
the fuck these guys were talking about.
Yeah, it was everything. It was everything they were talking about.
Yeah.
And sonically it just resonated with me, the guitar, the voices, the words. I've always been a writer, and words to me, like I have a hard time, especially at that time, and like it was just like if I heard if the words weren't substantive to me, like I just couldn't get into it.
You couldn't get into it, gotcha.
And like I was looking for that. I was looking for something to make me feel either recognized or just feel good, or feel like I'm not alone, or feel like there's somebody expressing the way that I feel, or learning how to talk about things or these emotions. And or just this energy like in the music that I could associate with, and that was huge for like Pearl Jam, and even like the sort of southern alt rock, country alt rock, where those lines intersect, kind of going back to like, thinking of like Elvis and like back in that, like where that those crossroads happen, and like the Gin Blossoms and like, and Better Than Ezra and like all these like 90s, bands, but and even late 80s, 90s, Crowded House and Toad the Wet Sprocket, like guitar-driven stuff that but had like words that like sort of resonated with me, and that just kind of stuck with me. And I've been like a rock guy, but I love like all disciplines of music I can appreciate. Mm-hmm. I played jazz in like the high school in a high school band, and I was a trumpet player.
Okay.
So like, I have appreciation for everything. I've always liked pop, and because there's a reason that it's popular, right? Because it makes people feel good, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's just been a huge part of my life, and a part of my creative process, my emotional process, my mental like process, and it's always been with me. And it's something that I played in bands and written songs, and it's always going to be part of me. And there was a part of my life in the beginning when I was back in somebody else's kitchens, and there was a time where like I was in a band, and they're like, we have an opportunity to play this big show, and it's like a Friday or Saturday night, of course. And I asked for it off. Like, no way. Like, no fucking way. No,
you gotta make your choice at that point.
You make your choice. Yeah. What are you going to do? And I got to sit down for my chef at the time. It's just like,
where were you? What restaurant?
Or what are you going to do? And it was the Agora, which was at the time in the 90s. The economy was great in the middle 90s, right? And Providence there was a lot going on. Yeah. And they just built at the time the first luxury hotel in downtown Providence.
What was the hotel called?
The Westin.
The Westin. Okay.
Yeah, which is now, it's crazy now, like how how hotels change. And you're like, wait, didn't the Omni used to be that building, or didn't the Biltmore used to be there, or didn't the Westin, or didn't what? Like, and they just switched brands and
different names, same rooms. So, it's like, what the fuck?
But that was like that was a big thing, and it was the restaurant that they brought a chef in from Boston and opened up this restaurant, and national acclaim, and I was lucky enough to get a job there on accident, and it was one of the best experiences of my life. But this particular thing that had happened, and it was just like, you got to make a decision. Are you going to be a musician, or are you going to be a chef?
Yeah.
Because you can't do both.
You can't.
Which is right and wrong. Like as a career, you can only at that time, and it was a different time then, and he was really just saying like, are you going to give this your all, or are you not going to give it your all? And I just wish, but who knows? Like, if I had gotten the night off and more nights off, and I tried to do both, and I don't know. And I did try to do both, but I resented him for that, and
for stifling your
and it eventually led to me not being able to stay in that band because I could only do shows that weren't on Friday and Saturday nights, and
so the band had to make a hard decision too. Where it's like,
and it was just
this guy
like
in
tough.
It or not?
Yeah, exactly. And I'd be put in that position musically and non-musically so many more times later in life, but like, you just like, it was like a hard thing for me. But
and the band was probably all your friends.
Yeah.
In the kitchen, there's probably, your chef and then a couple douchebags, and you're like, I don't know.
No, they were like my family. They were like my family too, and but it's like, it was just a tough thing, but it stayed with me, and then again when I left there a few years later, 4 or 5 years later, and then before I opened up Nick's, got more heavy back into music again.
Yeah,
playing shows, and then he